comparison, Donald's been all over the place on ISIS. He talked about letting Syria become a free zone for ISIS, a major country in the Middle East that could launch attacks against us and others. He's talked about sending ground troops, American ground troops. Well, that is off the table as far as I am concerned.
Well, you heard it. That was Hillary Clinton at a rally. She was slamming Donald Trump's foreign policy. She said she would take sending boots on the ground off the table if she were the president. Mike Baker is here. He's a former CIA covert operations officer. Always intriguing sort of guy, isn't Baker?
Well, we can't talk about that.
That's a big introduction. Thank you. I should leave now so I don't disappoint people.
I want to know what you think of a presidential candidate who says, I'm telling the enemy exactly what I'm going to do. There'll be no American boots on the ground. Relax, boys. Everything's okay. I think that's a classic mistake.
Well, because apparently surprise is never a good thing in a military operation, right? Yeah. So it's pandering on her part. She's being very disingenuous. She already knows that we've got boots on the ground, and that is going to increase. I mean, one thing I think that we can be assured of, or during the course of the next, say, 60 days, as we get closer to November, is that this current administration is going to do everything possible. They're going to expend all resources that they think they can get away with to try to turn the tide, to try to show aggressiveness and acceleration in the fight against ISIS, to try to continue that narrative and to take away, sort of the fodder that, the Republicans may have about it.
But it is working.
Well, it is working. No, and that's right. And that's right. We have to, and you're absolutely right. We have to be pragmatic. We have to be realistic. We have to understand that, and we should be happy about that, right? I mean, so we are having some success in Libya. We're having some success in Syria and Iraq. We should have been doing this, two and a half years ago. But and we need to do it more aggressively. But for her to get up there and just completely pander in front of that crowd and say no boots on the ground is ridiculous.
But she's caught the American mood. I don't think Americans really want 20, 30,000 GIs over there storming the beach. I don't think America wants that.
No, agreed, and we don't need that sort of strategy. We don't need those sort of numbers. But to be honest, if we are going to defeat them on the ground out there, and we need to do that, while at the same time understanding that it's just going to, the problem's not going to go away, right? We can beat ISIS. We're not beating Muslim extremism at the same time. We're beating ISIS in this short-term battle that, I mean, it stretches out over years. But, there's this 30,000-foot problem. So while we are winning in Syria, Iraq, and Libya, the general public may feel like the problem is worse. And both those things are actually correct.
Now, Donald Trump, he says that his foreign policy, in his foreign policy speech, he says he will use, I quote, extreme vetting. He repeated it, extreme vetting on anybody who wants to come to the United States. His opponents are saying, you can't do that, and it won't work. You say?
Well, we vet people now. We've vetted people in the past. We've always asked for that pledge of allegiance to our country when you come in as a citizen. How it would work, and I think this is why he was short on specifics, which the Dems are pointing out from his speech yesterday. How it works is another question. When you're trying to talk about an ideological belief and you're asking a potential terrorist sympathizer, he's not going to tell you he's a terrorist sympathizer or that he believes in Sharia law. He's coming in, if he's a bad guy, he's coming in, he's not going to tell you that question. So there's aspects to this that the direct questioning won't help. We do have to look at the vetting process that we're engaged in. Can we do it better? Of course we can do it better. Does that mean we're going to be in a lockdown situation? I don't think there's any way in the world he would accomplish that.
When I became an American citizen, I had to say, look, I've never been a member of the Communist Party. If it was 100 years ago and I arrived at Ellis Island, I've got to find two people who stand up and say, he's okay, that guy, let him in. There is that kind of vetting.
And now you're here.
Look at But there is historical precedent for this. And it could work. I mean, there's a mechanism that could be found to make it work. And I think it's popular with the American people.
Well, it's very popular. And, of course, nobody wants to allow, a hostile into this country. There's no doubt about it. That's just common sense. But I think what we need to do is we need to back it up a little bit. It would make more sense maybe to the general public if we had a conversation from the beginning and say, here's what we currently do. Now let's look at the gaps, and let's talk about the actual measures that we can engage in. We're not having that discussion right now. With both sides, obviously, campaign season throwing these hand grenades at each other. But I think if we walked it back a little bit and said, this is what we currently do for the various categories of people that come into this country, where can we improve it? That's a good conversation to have.
Mike Baker, former CIA guy, wearing a delightful suit today, but next week off to Alaska.
Yep. We're going to have a few days off doing some tremendous fishing and climbing. It'll be great. It'll be great.
Phone in, will you?
I will. From the mountaintop.
Yeah, do it. All right. Mike Baker, thank you.
Thank you.